Hi, I'm Tom Zalatnai. I am the host and producer of the No Bad Food podcast and the Natural Toonie podcast. I'm also the executive producer at the Upford Network, a Montreal-based podcasting network and recording studio based out of NDG. The No Bad Food podcast has a goal of sort of demystifying and destigmatizing food, talking about it from as many kind of positive angles as possible, and celebrating the things that bring us joy about it. So, a lot of that conversation ends up being around the sort of community that food can build, and a lot of the sort of navigating what makes food good, right? What makes food something that brings us joy? And, this idea that there is no such thing as bad food if it brings you joy, even if nutritionally it's maybe not the best thing for you. And then, on a broader scale, what we do at the Upford Network is we create shows, we create content that is community driven, that is focused on providing, I guess, just emotionally honest, vulnerable storytelling, thoughtful conversations, and all of this through sort of a progressive lens, so that we can be putting these stories out there and giving creators the tools and resources that they need to help them tell those stories. One of the things that I have always been passionate about is equipping people to tell their stories and connecting people with other people who can help them do that. And one of the ways that we are able to do that at the Upford Network is by offering our services on a sliding scale pay rate. So if someone can't afford to pay the amount that they would have to pay somewhere else, they can pay less here. And, as long as it's enough to make sure that the people who are doing the work are getting paid, we can be flexible around that, and we can come up with arrangements that work for everybody. Because I think that, with any kind of content creation, there is a bit of a financial barrier of entry to the work, and I want to eliminate that where I can. And so if eliminating that where I can means letting someone use my studio to record so that they don't have to spend a bunch of money on equipment, I'm happy to do that, right? I think that sharing resources like that, building these community spaces where people can come and feel welcome and feel empowered to do the thing that they want to do, that is a thing that we need more of in the world. So one of the things that I do with the No Bad Food podcast is that every month I pick a different local organization to donate a little bit of money to. I don't have a ton of money, so what I do is I ask my listeners to leave ratings and reviews of my show on Apple Podcasts, and then for every rating and review I get, I donate a certain amount of money to that organization. So for instance, right now, the organization is my local food bank, and I say, for every rating and review I get, I'll give them $1 or $2, and they take that money and they turn it into so much more than what it would be for me to just go to the grocery store. They can take, $2 and make it worth $6. And through doing that kind of small action, I'm able to give back to my community at large, while also, dealing with the kind of boring day-to-day of having to get ratings and reviews for my podcast in order to stimulate growth, right? Because any kind of media needs a marketing budget. Every kind of media needs something to drive it forward. And in the podcasting world, if you don't have money, you really are reliant on people sharing it around. You're reliant on word of mouth. And one of the most useful tools for that is reviews. So, if I can get more reviews for my show while also having an incentive to give extra money to businesses and nonprofits that I believe in, that's a win-win for everybody. When I hit a wall in a fundraising effort, so maybe I'm trying to reach a certain amount by the end of a week and it just hasn't gotten there yet, maybe I just am starting to feel like I'm running out of options, a thing that I have to remind myself is you're never really out of options. You can push as much as you need to. You can ask everybody you've ever met, and you'll be surprised. I have raised over $10,000 in the past in crowdfunding initiatives for projects through our network, and you get a lot of money from family and friends. You get money from people who are directly invested in the project. You get money from listeners, but also sometimes you get donations from people you met 10 years ago once who you just happen to be Facebook friends with. And you really just need to be willing to put it out there and say, hey, hope you're doing well. Here's a thing I'm working on. If you think it's cool, throw a couple bucks at it. If not, totally understand. I don't expect everybody to give money to this. Having the ability to take rejection, I think, is a really huge part of any sort of crowdfunded initiative, you need the ability to hear no from people. And hopefully you'll get lucky and most of the people who say no will be nice about it, but you need to be able to kind of say, okay, that's fine, and just take it in stride and trust that down the line it will work out. Fundraising is never easy. It's just not. But at the end of the day, you do what you gotta do, and then good things happen as a result. I think that oftentimes, especially in North American culture, we're taught that we need to be able to do things for ourselves. This idea that you can't ask for help, this idea that it is better to do something by yourself and do a bad job at it than to burden someone else with helping you with it, that's really toxic, and that leads to this isolation and this real sort of macho, I can do it myself attitude. And I think as a kid, I definitely picked that up somehow, whether it was through the media I was consuming or just through the things I was hearing from adults in my life. And doing all of this kind of work, doing this intentional community building through the media that I create, doing these massive fundraising initiatives has shown me that you need people. Whether you know it or not, you need people. You're going to do a better job if you have people working with you on the thing, who share your vision, who want to see the thing through to the end. And you can't do it all on your own. You can do some things on your own, certainly, and that's great. But my policy is, if I can't get it right the first time by myself, I'm not going to be ashamed to ask for help, because if I don't ask for help, it's going to take 10 times as long, and that's not going to be efficient, that's not going to get the thing done, and that's also not going to end up giving the best version of that thing to the people that I'm making the thing for. I've had my fair share of people contact me over the years with encouraging messages of various kinds. You'll get messages that are as simple and innocuous as, hey, I really look forward to listening to your show every Monday morning as part of my commute. Just wanted you to know that someone is listening on a weekly basis and looks forward to it as part of their routine. And that's awesome. But then you can also get messages from people where they'll say, hey, when you shared this story about XYZ thing, maybe mental health, maybe about something that you went through, maybe even just about, a thought you were processing that week, someone might message you and say, hey, when you shared that story on the show, that got me out of a really hard place. That got me out of a really dark place. And when you get that kind of message, you know that something you said resonated with that person. You know that the work you're doing matters, at least a little bit, which, when I'm producing content about food or comedy podcasts, I don't always think that the thing I'm making is going to affect somebody in a deep way, right? I don't think that the work I'm doing is life-changing or life-saving, but if it hits the right person on the right day, maybe it is. And to know that that kind of vulnerability exists in this medium is why I care so much about it, right? Because I know deep down someone somewhere might need to hear the thing that I'm saying, and it might make a big difference for them. And that is beautiful. If I had to give one word of advice to creative people who are struggling to continue to make their thing a reality, that advice would be to just be flexible with it. You can change things. Nothing needs to be permanent. There's this sunk cost fallacy that exists a lot of the time with creative projects, especially if you're doing something that comes out on a weekly or even monthly basis, where you think, well, I can't stop doing this thing now. I've been doing it for 300 consecutive weeks. I can't change it. You can change it. If your heart's not in it the way that it currently is, change it. Fix it up. I went through countless iterations of my show before landing on what feels the most right to me. I wouldn't be surprised if it changes again sometime in the future, but at the heart of it, my heart has always been in it, and that is the thing that people who consume your content want. They want your heart. They don't necessarily want the exact same thing from you week after week. They want you. They want what you are bringing to the table. They trust you as a curator of that content just as much as they trust you as a creator of that content. And so if for you, the well has run dry, but there's another well 10 feet away and you're like, I don't know, can I start taking water out of that well to give to people? You can. They will trust you because you've built that trust. Be willing to change. Don't be afraid of change. Embrace it. Do what feels right for you. You can listen to my food podcast, No Bad Food, and my Dungeons and Dragons podcast, Natural Toonie, by going to upfordnetwork.com or by searching for either of the shows wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to check out all of the work that I'm doing, you can follow me on social media at Zalatnai, where I will post all of my links every time something happens. And if you're looking for support with creative projects or the fundraising initiative, feel free to hit me up also over social media at Zalatnai. I offer a free half-hour consultation for people to kind of help them either flesh out a podcast idea or breathe new life into the project that they're already working on, or to help you come up with ideas for your crowdfunding initiative. I am always happy to chat, and I'm always happy to help people make their dreams a reality.